Discussing some very important things today. I'd just like to start off by saying that the Crusades were justified, even if the Knights Templar were a satanic cult pretending to be Christians. Numbers 25. This is the first experience the Jews have with Allah. Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. These are the Jordanians. Now, Lot had two daughters, and after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot's two daughters got him drunk and they got pregnant by him when he was unconscious. The Muslims deny this ever happened because they say Lot was a prophet. This is the origin of the Moabites and the Ammonites, two of the most ancient enemies of Israel. They fought against Israel since the days of Jacob and Esau in the book of Jubilees, chapter 37 and 38. So the Jews began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab, and they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, like Allah, Baal. And the people did eat and bow down to their gods. So they ate the sacrifices of Allah, just like on Eid. At the end of Ramadan, you would eat sacrifices to Allah. Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor, Baal, Hubal, Allah. And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Israel. And Yahweh said unto Moses, take all the heads of the people and hang them up before Yahweh against the sun, that the fierce anger of Yahweh may be turned away from Israel. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay you every one his men that were joined unto Baal Peor. And behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman, an Arabian woman, in the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping before the door of the tabernacle of congregation, the house of God before Solomon's temple. And when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand. And he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel. And those that died in the plague were 24,000. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Phinehas the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has turned my wrath away from the children of Israel, while he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consumed not the children of Israel in my jealousy. So God was pleased with this. God was pleased that Phinehas killed one of his own people and the Midianite woman that he was about to sleep with in the congregation. He was about to defile himself in front of all Israel, in front of God and everybody. And God was pleased that Phinehas killed these two. Zealous for my sake among them, that I consumed not the children of Israel in my jealousy. Wherefore say, behold, I give unto him my covenant of peace, and he shall have it in his seed after him, even the covenant of an everlasting priesthood, because he was zealous for his God, and made an atonement for the children of Israel. Now the name of the Israelite that was slain, even that was slain with the Midianitish woman, was Zimri the son of Salu, a prince of a chief among the Simeonites. And the name of the Midianitish woman who was slain was Cosbi, the daughter of Zur. He was head over a people and of a chief house in Midian. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, vex the Midianites, and smite them, for they vex you with their wiles, wherewith they have beguiled you in the matter of Peor, and in the matter of Cosbi, the daughter of a prince of Midian, their sister, which was slain in the day of the plague for Peor's sake. So what God is saying is, go to war with the Midianites, because they're at war with you. They're seducing you to worship Baal. Baal Peor is the same as Hubal. It's the same as Allah, the Quraysh pagans before Muhammad, which Muhammad is descended from. Muhammad's father, Muhammad's father's fathers, they're all Quraysh. They worshipped Allah. Sometimes they called him Hubal, but it was the same God. And what does Hubal mean? The spirit of Baal. So, the Crusades were completely justified. The Muslims are a plague of satanic Baal worshippers. That's all it is. They don't believe in Moses. They don't believe in Jesus. They are very similar to the Mandaeanism people, Sabianism. So what is this? It's a Gnostic, monotheistic, and ethnic religion with Greek, Iranian, and Jewish influences. Its adherents, the Mandaeans, revere Adam, Abel, Seth, Enos, Noah, Shem, Aram, and especially John the Baptist. Mandaeans consider Adam, Seth, Noah, Shem, and John the Baptist prophets, with Adam being the founder of the religion and John being the greatest and final prophet. So these people, this is what the Knights Templar actually were. They were not Christians. They pretended to be Christians. They actually worshiped John the Baptist. And the Muslims would have seen the I don't know what they're called. Mandaya. I'm going to call them Mandaya. The Muslims would have called the Mandaya people of the book in the Quran. They would have taken them as Christians. However, these are heretics. They believe John the Baptist is greater than Jesus. They believe Jesus was a false prophet. So, a copy of the Ginza Rabbah in Arabic tradition, it was an ethnic religion, Gnosticism, just like Islam, which is basically a satanic perversion of the Bible. And you can find them in Iraq, Iran, and the diaspora communities. The language is Mandaic. The origin is the 1st century AD in Judea and the Roman Empire. And they were separated from Second Temple Judaism. There's about 60,000 to 100,000. Nazaraeanism and Sabianism. So these are heretics to the law of Moses. These are heretics to the Gospels. And this is exactly what the Knights Templar are. The Knights Templar are Mandaeans. Mandaeans speak an Eastern Aramaic language known as Mandaic. The name Mandaean comes from the Aramaic manda, meaning knowledge, like the Gnostics, gnosis, within the Middle East, but outside their community, the Mandaeans are more commonly known as the Suba or the Sabians, which I believe Sabians are also in the Bible. Not the Bible, the Quran. The term Suba is derived from the Aramaic root related to baptism. The term Sabians derives from the mysterious religious group mentioned 3 times in the Quran. The name of this unidentified group, which is implied in the Quran to belong to the people of the book. So the Muslims consider them to be people of the book. The Muslims consider the Sabians to be like saved Jews / saved Christians. But these are actually heretics. So the Muslims can't differentiate between heretics and true believers. But they consider the Sabians, who believe that John the Baptist was the final prophet. They consider them people of the book. And this was historically claimed by the Mandaeans as well as by other religious groups in order to gain legal protection, Dima, as offered by Islamic law. Occasionally, Mandaeans are also called Christians of St. John in the belief that they were a direct survival of the Baptist disciples. Further research, however, indicates that this to be a misnomer, as Mandaeans consider Jesus to be a false prophet, just like the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar, which is basically one of the most famous of the Crusader groups, and this is the one, I'm sure there's other ones that were like this, but this is the one that I do not respect. I respect the Crusades, 100%. The Crusades were necessary, and it's going to happen again. We can see what Islam is. Islam is Hamas. Islam is Al-Qaeda. Islam is ISIS. This is just what they believe. If you believe in Muhammad, if you're willing to follow the footsteps of Muhammad, you are a terrorist. Muhammad was a terrorist to Jews, Muhammad was a terrorist to Christians, and Muhammad basically ethnically cleansed the entire Arabian Peninsula of Jews and Christians. It's in his own words, it's in the Hadith, it's in the Quran. They don't deny that these things happened. They just say, oh, it was justified, or you're taking it out of context. Like, Islam is the Antichrist religion. John 8:44, you are of your father the devil. He was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. So that's Islam. Islam is worse than the Pharisees who killed Jesus. And the Knights Templar are the reason why the Crusades failed. There was a huge schism in the Crusades, and if this schism had never existed, things would have gone much better. We would have cleansed the entire Middle East of Islam. We would have established the biblical theocracy globally a long, long time ago. The poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, mainly known as the Knights Templar, was a military order of the Catholic faith, one of the wealthiest and most popular military orders in Western Christianity, founded in 1119 and headquartered on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, which is Al-Aqsa. And they existed for nearly 2 centuries during the Middle Ages. So they claimed allegiance to the Pope. They claimed to be a Catholic military order. They claimed that their role was to protect the Christian pilgrims in Palestine as shock troops. And let's see what they... Okay, I can't read the motto. It's in Latin. So it says, Christendom, they developed innovative financial techniques that were an early form of banking. Yeah, this was the first banking system where they would give you notes, and you could take these notes to another country, and they would exchange it for gold and silver. Building a network of nearly 1,000 commanderies and fortifications across Europe and the Holy Land, and arguably forming one of the world's earliest multinational corporations. The Templars were closely tied to the Crusades. As they became unable to secure their holdings in the Holy Land, support for the order faded. Rumors about the Templars' secret initiation ceremony, which these are real, created distrust, and King Philip IV of France, while being deeply in debt to the order, used this distrust to take advantage of the situation. In 1307, he pressured Pope Clement V to have many of the order's members in France arrested, tortured into giving false confessions, and then burned at the stake. How is it a false confession? How is it a false confession? Because we're going to see what they actually admit to doing. Under further pressure, Pope Clement V disbanded the order in 1312. The abrupt disappearance of a major part of the medieval European infrastructure gave rise to speculation and legends, which have kept the Templar name alive to this day. Claims were made that during Templar admission ceremonies, recruits were forced to spit on the cross, deny Christ, just like the Mandaeans, and engage in indecent kissing. Brethren were also accused of worshiping idols, and the order was said to have encouraged homosexual practices, just like the Freemasons. Many of these allegations contain tropes that bear similarities to accusations made against other persecuted groups, such as the Synagogue of Satan, because this is not in Judaism. You will never find this endorsed in the Bible. Other persecuted groups, such as the Synagogue of Satan, heretics, and accused witches. Of course, because that's what Satan's religion is. These allegations, though, were highly politicized without any real evidence, so you claim. Still, the Templars were charged with numerous other offenses such as financial corruption, fraud, and secrecy. Many of the accused confessed to these charges under torture, even though the Templars denied being tortured in their written confessions. So the Templars denied being tortured, but you're claiming that they were tortured into giving this information. And their confessions, even though obtained under duress, caused a scandal in Paris. The prisoners were coerced to confess that they had spat on the cross. One said, Moi Ramon de la Fere 21 ans reconnaisse. Okay, I, Raymond de la Fere, 21 years old, admit that I have spat 3 times on the cross, but only from my mouth and not from my heart. The Templars were accused of idolatry and were charged with worshiping either a figure known as Baphomet or a mummified severed head they recovered, which I believe is the head of John the Baptist. These are Mandaeans. They worship John as the Messiah, and they reject Jesus. Either a figure known as Baphomet or a mummified severed head they recovered, among other artifacts at their original headquarters on the Temple Mount. So they were doing satanic rituals inside of Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is basically a satanic church, satanic mosque built over Solomon's temple. Some have theorized that this head might have been believed to be that of John the Baptist, among other things. Relenting to King Philip's demands, Pope Clement then issued the papal bull Pastoralis Praemunitae 22 November 1307, which instructed all Christian monarchs in Europe to arrest all Templars and seize their assets. Clement called for papal hearings to determine the Templars' guilt or innocence, and once freed of the Inquisition's torture, many Templars recanted their confessions. Some had sufficient legal experience to defend themselves in the trials, but in 1210, blah, blah, blah. The Knights Templar are often accused of having venerated John the Baptist above Jesus Christ, just like the Mandaeans. That they regarded him as the Messiah and not the Son of God, as described in the Gospels. So, how would this make any sense? Well, it's rooted in the existence of an ancient Eastern strand in Christianity that believes John was a savior and not the man called Jesus. John the Baptist. Why might the Knights Templar have worshipped him? The story of the baptism of Jesus by John the Baptist strikes me as the most historically accurate part of the New Testament, but for reasons some might find unorthodox to me, this is the moment that Jesus Christ usurped an already existing cult and took its followers for himself. The evidence is the increasingly outlandish excuses that arise in the successful gospel to justify his actions. I'm not sure what source this is, but it seems like it's a Mandaean source. Ancient origins. That makes sense. Ancient origins. Oh, the aliens made us. Enki's our savior. Blah, blah, blah. That kind of crap. The Johannites and St. John the Baptist. So, there was a long line of Gnostic Johannites, the Johns, that had begun with John the Baptist and included Jesus, John the Apostle, and Mary Magdalene. John was not just a name, but it was also an honorific title meaning he of Gnostic power and wisdom. It is related to the Sanskrit Janana, pronounced Yana, meaning gnosis. So, yeah. The Crusades were justified, but we were dealing with Satanism, left, right, and center. 2 doctrines. Then the Order of the Knights of the Temple was at its very origin devoted to the cause of opposition to the tiara of Rome and to the crown of kings, and the apostolate of Kabbalistic Gnosticism was vested in its chief, for St. John was the father of the Gnostics. The Templars, like all other secret orders and associations, had 2 doctrines, one concealed and reserved for the masters, which was Johannism, the other public, which was Roman Catholic. Thus they deceived the adversaries whom they sought to supplant. And the Roman Catholic Church has become much more corrupt since these days. Pope Pius's announcement made it clear that the Church had been aware of the existence of the Johannites for many centuries. The early Templars were also aware that the Vatican knew of their existence. Vatican spies were always swarming the Middle East. So, this is why the Knights Templar were doing all that wicked stuff, but the Crusades were completely justified. And in fact, I wish they would have been successful. They're probably going to end up being fought again the way things are going. I mean, when you got Muslims basically saying Islam will penetrate into every house and you have no choice, does this not remind you of what happened on October 7th with Hamas? You can't empathize with these people because they don't have empathy. You can't logically philosophize with these people because they lack logic. Even if they do have empathy and logic, they don't have it for kafir. They don't have it for non-believers. They believe in one thing. You will be a Muslim or you will die. That's their religion. Islam means submission to Allah. And we know Allah is not the God of the Bible because the Muslims don't believe in the prophets. They don't believe in the Torah. They don't believe in the history books of the Old Testament. They don't believe anything in the Bible. Islam's role is to take the Bible and corrupt it and twist it and spin it to claim Muhammad is a prophet, to claim that Jesus endorsed Muhammad, and to claim that Muhammad, Jesus, and Moses are like brothers. Now, even comparing Muhammad to Moses is almost blasphemy. I know Moses is not the son of God, but it's almost blasphemy because Moses was so close to God. To even compare Muhammad to Moses is almost blasphemy. But when you compare Muhammad to Jesus, God will have to judge these people. The Crusades were justified. They're going to happen again the way things are going. I have no issue with a biblical theocracy rooted in the law of Moses, with a very strong understanding of the Hebrew prophets, with Christ as king. Jesus is the king of the Jews. He's the king of the world. He's the Son of God. And we must obey what he taught us. And he taught us to keep the law of Moses. And what did the law of Moses teach? What did God tell Moses about conquering the Holy Land of Canaan? He said, don't make a treaty. Numbers 33, do not make a covenant, do not make a treaty with these people, for they will turn you to their gods. Utterly cast them down and destroy their altars and their temples and scatter them from the Holy Land. And this is what the Hebrews should have done. And had they done this, everything would have gone well. This is an ancient war. Satan is real, and Islam is one of his appendages. And the only way to defeat Islam is strict obedience to the law of Moses, strict obedience to Christ. Okay, this whole turn the other cheek, don't cast the first stone, they're taking the Bible out of context. Jesus never told us to be pacifist. Was Jesus a pacifist when he was assaulting people with a whip for selling sacrifices in the temple? No. Jesus explicitly told us to keep the law of Moses until heaven and earth passes away. Yes, if you want to turn the other cheek when you're being struck, you can do so as a symbol of moral superiority. Yes, pray for your enemies, but don't let your enemies walk over you. The Romans allowed the Hebrews to practice their religion, so Jesus said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. If the Romans did not allow the Jews to worship Yahweh, if they were destroying the Hebrew religion like the Greeks had done, then there would have been a revolution and Jesus would have been in favor of that revolution. We must keep the law of Moses, we must understand the prophets, and we must understand that Islam is the enemy of God. That's all it is. Abraham never worshipped a rock in Mecca. Okay, the Midianites have been an ancient enemy of the Hebrews since before the days of Moses. These are Baal worshippers. Allah is Baal. They worship Satan. They're at war with us. Muhammad's last words before he died was to curse the Jews and the Christians by Allah. Allah is not Yahweh.